game that came out the year I was a small baby. The game that came out packaged in between two titans in the video game industry. The game that came out the same year that the B-movie game did. Huh. And yet, despite all the odds stacked against it, despite every reason it had to fade into obscurity, Portal broke through and became one of the most celebrated games of the 2000s. But hey, what do I think about it, and what would I rate it out of 10? I bought Portal back in 2019. It was one of the first games I ever picked up on Steam. Before that, I was mainly playing Geometry Dash, Terraria, or Minecraft. All great in their own right, but I never really bought a first-person shooter game before. I was more into survival or RPGs, never anything with a straight-up narrative. Portal was the first introduction to that genre, and to Valve as well, a company I've grown to love over the years. I've played pretty much all of their games, but anyway, enough about Valve. Let's talk about the atmosphere in this masterpiece. It is unmatched, and something that manages to differentiate Portal from anything else. Playing this game for the first time and seeing the first Ratman's Den has always been one of my fondest gaming memories. I genuinely thought it was a quirky puzzle game, but having a creepy curveball like that was incredible in piquing my interest and making me look out for even more dens, which, by the way, are weirdly well hidden in some areas. I only just found out about this one while trying to get all the achievements for this video, and that is an incredible strength. Still having things to discover after my 10th playthrough. I remember finding the jellyfish drawing on my 4th or 5th attempt, I don't remember, but either way, you get the idea. This game can be played over and over. Of course, eventually it gets a little old, but the idea of finding new ways to beat chambers, glitching the game, or finding new secrets playthrough after playthrough is a strength that just cannot be argued with. There's also the story. Noticing the stains on the floor, or the glitchiness of the weird AI voice that's been talking to you, or understanding that you haven't seen a single human the entire game. These are really cool realizations. Eventually, finding out GLaDOS is evil and escaping is also one of the coolest things to experience for the first time. Sure, you didn't actually think you were going to get some cake, but you just don't really think she'd actually try and kill you. Well, once you escape, you get to some of the most interesting environments in the entire game. Visiting the back end of the chambers, getting to the windows where you previously saw nobody was even watching from. And now you can gather that maybe the evil AI trying to capture you has something to do with the disappearances. Now granted, the actual story isn't exactly super fleshed out, but I feel that adds a massive part to the charm. GLaDOS killed everyone in the facility? Why? How does Aperture Science relate to Black Mesa? Was this place ready just for testing people with the portal gun? Who created these secret hideouts, and why is GLaDOS even a thing? Well, that's what sequels are for, but I can imagine having these unanswered questions back in 2007 would have resulted in really interesting ideas and theories that people came up with on their own. Sometimes, leaving a story open-ended can really help build the world's atmosphere, and Portal is a prime example. So how is the ending sequence of the game? Once we finally find GLaDOS, she delivers plenty of clever dialogue and manages to trick us using reverse psychology.
Do you think I'm trying to trick you with reverse psychology? I mean, seriously now. Just put it in the... Good news. I figured out what that thing you just incinerated did. It was a morality core they installed after I flooded the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin to make me stop flooding the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin. So get comfortable while I warm up the neurotoxin emitters.
Through that, we then realize that we can use our own turret to hurt her and destroy the remaining cores, eventually incinerating all of them, causing her to explode and for us to be propelled onto the surface, where we subsequently get pulled back into the facility. Now, I love this ending so much. It's a super simple boss fight that's easy to understand, but GLaDOS and her dialogue is so amusing that sometimes I like to slow down and just let her babble on.
There was even going to be a party for you. A big party that all your friends were invited to. I invited your best friend, the Companion Cube. Of course, he couldn't come because you murdered him. All your other friends couldn't come either because you don't have any other friends because of how unlikable you are.
Then, once we win and get pulled back in by the party associate robot, we get a lovely song, and a possibility of a sequel.
This was a triumph.
See, there are some tiny bits of lore throughout the game, mainly towards the end with these really cool projection rooms, detailing Aperture Science and its relation to Half-Life and Black Mesa in universe. Along with some dialogue from GLaDOS, telling us how she was the one who killed everyone with neurotoxin.
To make me stop flooding the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin.
As well as how the scientist installed so-called cores on her to create her personality. These small story beats are really all we get, but the way they still manage to create so much atmosphere with so little exposition is genius.
Thank you for participating in this Aperture Science computer-aided enrichment activity. Goodbye.
The writing of GLaDOS is also genius. I mean, Eric Wolpar and Chet Fazek are funny people, and it really shows through the deadpan black comedy lines that GLaDOS gives throughout the game.
Please be advised that a noticeable taste of blood is not part of any test protocol, but is an unintended side effect of the Aperture Science material emancipation grip, which may, in semi-rare cases, emancipate dental fillings, crowns, tooth enamel, and teeth.
But it's also slightly scary the way she begs you to come back once you've escaped.
What are you doing? Stop it. We are pleased that you made it through the final challenge where we pretended we were going to murder you. Make no further attempt to leave the testing area.
It's a really great line that gets trodden between creepy and funny, but yeah, there's nothing bad I could really say about the script at all. And Ellen McLain was a perfect GLaDOS. I genuinely couldn't see anyone else doing as well as she did. Speaking of Ellen McLain, her performance at the end of the game with the song Still Alive was beautiful, and I couldn't have asked for a better song to accompany the credits. And the ambient songs in this game are just generally perfect for creating mood. There's no crazy club bangers or head bumpers. Well, I suppose there is, but they're not very traditional. In my opinion, the best music in the game is the atmospheric stuff. Each track is so recognizable and sets the mood perfectly for every single chamber. Now let's talk about the actual mechanics of Portal. Mechanics which had never been seen before the game came to be. Well, I suppose you could count Narbaki the drop, but I don't know if I should count that. The act of placing down a portal and walking through to another location must have been incredibly annoying to code at the time, considering they had nothing to go off of. But I can only imagine seeing that for the first time back in 2007. A completely alien concept in terms of video games, and it being so flawless. Well, for the most part. Yes, the speedrunning scene in this game is insane. 5 minutes for the entire game. What? I have 64 hours in Portal. I've beaten it like 20 times. If I had his speed, I'd be able to beat it 768 times. Trust me, ChatGPT did the math. But anyway, in terms of playing for the first time and being completely new to it, despite what speedruns make it seem, Portal does offer some pretty well-designed challenges, and entire chambers that are pretty hard all things considered, especially when you're a child playing like your 8th game ever, which was very much my experience. But it wasn't a bad experience. I liked the challenge. And yeah, sure, maybe I looked up a couple of answers, but let's be honest, we all did. The way the mechanics also line up perfectly with the atmosphere is masterful. You start the game off with GLaDOS being relatively normal, with simple puzzles using cubes, portals, and buttons, and then she gets a bit weirder and introduces energy balls that can kill you instantly if accidentally touched. And then we have strange goop, which looks like those videos of people mixing random stuff until they create sentient life. It's a really cool contrast from a relatively clean facility to one that houses acidic goo as a testing initiative. And finally, once we discover the first Ratman den, we have turrets, killing machines whose only purpose is to slow you down, or kill you. GLaDOS initially masks this as a mistake and says,
Due to mandatory scheduled maintenance, the appropriate chamber for this testing sequence is currently unavailable. It has been replaced with a live fire course designed for military androids.
However, we can see that in future courses, she clearly intended to use these turrets as part of the testing, which gives us a slight hint that maybe that was her attempt of taking us by surprise and killing us. The length of the game is really the only thing I'd be annoyed at, because I simply want more. It's perfectly paced and really fun, so having more than 2 to 3 hours would be great. And obviously, the more you play, the shorter your playthroughs get, so at this point, I can complete Portal in like 30 to 40 minutes if I'm trying, but if you really do want more, or you're just fishing for full achievement completion like I did a couple of days ago, you of course have the advanced chambers and the challenges, both of which are actually decently hard. Figuring out ways to overcome the new layout of previous chambers has always been a fun challenge and can give some fresh experiences, like you're seeing entirely new chambers for the first time. However, my favourite part of the extra content would be the challenges. These push you to your absolute limits, like taking a certain amount of steps. That's crazy, who came up with that? Then there's of course trying to use the least amount of portals possible, and I'm convinced that someone at Valve just made these numbers up because I had to do shit like this to get a gold medal. Although I did love the time challenges, it made me feel like a little speedrunner trying to get the fastest time. Anyway, all in all, the challenges and advanced maps give some really nice extra content to the game that I would highly recommend trying out. I mean, only 2.6% of players have actually ever beaten all the challenges, so if you're watching this, go back and play them. Now, speaking of achievements, they are something to mention, as even after 60 hours, I still hadn't achieved all of them. Mainly because of the challenge maps, but there were some pesky collection type achievements, like detaching 33 cameras from the walls or figuring out where the radios would start transmitting a secret message. Oh yeah, this game had an entire ARG leading up to the sequel. Now, other than shadow dropping, an ARG has got to be the coolest way that a company could possibly announce a sequel. I highly recommend watching this video if you wanted to catch up on how the ARG actually worked. Well, I think I've gone through almost everything this incredible game has to offer, and a thought that I had is that it's honestly a perfect game to be your first experience in that type of genre. There's no hard fighting, there's fun puzzles which are universal, and of course, funny dialogue and an incredibly interesting atmosphere to go along with it. I really couldn't think of a critique of this game, other than the fact that it's too short for my liking, and it can get repetitive if you play it over and over again without an iteration on your playstyle. But those really aren't critiques of the game itself. It's more of the lack of game, actually, which is why I can confidently say that Portal, as a game, is a decent 10 out of 10. Thank you for watching my review and my thoughts, and welcome to the channel. This is the first video I'm posting, so thank you for actually clicking and helping with the algorithm. I'd appreciate a like and a sub. And if you like Portal, I'll definitely be reviewing Valve's other games, and even stuff like Terraria, Doom, or Half-Life 3, when it eventually comes out. Anyway, thanks for watching.